Alrighty, folks, thanks for clicking on today's video. James Cards FC here. When in doubt, I guess put out a new piece of content, and that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to be talking about soccer cards as always, and today I'm going to be talking about has the new normal arrived for the soccer card market. It'll be my thoughts on the 2023 market so far, what I've been seeing in the market, what I'm doing in the market, and sort of how I've been looking at it as we've moved into March and then heading into April of this year. No longer do we need to talk about what happened in 2022 and what's going on around the World Cup. We can now talk specifically about what's been happening in 2023 based on the data that we do have so far for this year. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and move to the second slide. I will move myself up into the top corner, and we should be good for the remainder of today's video. So, introduction. We are currently 1/4 of the way through 2023, which seems crazy, but yeah, this year is already 1/4 of the way over. That means it's probably a good time to check in on how the market has been performing overall this year, rather than relying on the usual checkpoints that we all know of. So, to review, the soccer card market did not really exist prior to 2019. During that time, you could have bought a Messi rookie in gem mint condition for like $1,500, and now that Messi rookie would cost you $150,000 plus dollars. So the market really didn't exist back then, and so moving forward into late 2019 and into early 2020, some early adopters like myself came to the market, mostly from other sports, but there are also some people that just naturally discovered the market during those time periods. But a lot of it was based on basketball, baseball, football. Those markets and sports cards really started to take off in late 2019 and into early 2020. So a lot of the early adopters to the soccer card market came from those markets as well. So early to mid 2020 through early to mid 2021 was a massive bull run on the sports card market. So everything goes up. Soccer cards go up, basketball goes up, football goes up, baseball goes up. It all goes to the moon in the years of 2020 and 2021. And that happens until late 2021 through 2022, which was our market crash or correction. And now that leaves us with the question of where is the market going and where has it gone in 2023 so far. This chart down here in the bottom right is the soccer card index for Card Ladder. As you can see, like I said, it doesn't really exist prior to 2019. It receives this bump up in 2020, then goes to the moon in early 2021. Pulls back, goes to the moon again, and it's been trending down ever since. And this ends on the end of 2022, and I'll be discussing today what's been going on in 2023, not just for the Card Ladder Index, of course, but for most of the main areas of our market. So, without further ado, we'll go into the first section, which is still dipping, ? This is the Card Ladder Index for soccer, and this is the performance it's had since the first of the year. As you can see, it is down 16% or so, and it had a nice little dip here over the past couple weeks. There must have been a really, really big card that took a big jump back. It might have been a high-end Pele or something like that really affected the market to drop it down another 10-ish% or so. But in any event, it's down about 16% overall. And while it's far from the perfect metric that we would like it to be, the Card Ladder Soccer Index does show this overall drop of 16% since the start of the year. However, since the index is only 1,100 cards and includes many players that are market bust at this point, including Timo Werner, Joao Felix, Ansu Fati, etc., and it doesn't include a lot of the pre-modern legends, it doesn't include a lot of the vintage legends, and I don't think it includes any pre-war legends. So with all those things taken into account, we should probably dig a little bit deeper into the main players in our market to get a better idea of what's going on with their prices this year. So that's what we'll do on this page, where we're going to talk about the four GOATs: Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, Maradona, and Pele. I think most soccer fans would agree these are the four greatest players of all time, and in the case of the soccer card market, they are by far the four biggest player markets, and no one really comes close, at least in terms of legends of the game. Obviously, Haaland and Mbappe have markets that are pretty much all their own, but they're ultra-modern, and so we'll just be talking about the non-active players. These are by far the four biggest. So Messi, over the past 3 months since the year began, is up about 5%, Ronaldo down about 4%, Maradona is down 15%, and Pele is down 44%. So, surprisingly, Pele is actually holding up by far the worst of the four GOATs in this market. The 1958 Aquarella rookie, which is this one right here, is down as high as 43% in the past 3 months, depending on the grade. Now, this is a high pop card for vintage, and multiple mid-grade copies have hit the market in a short time frame. So, for example, this PSA 5 hit the market and sold for like $20,000 to start the year, and then it just most recently sold, I think, last week for around $11,000. So, it took a huge dip, but that's what happens when you have a mid-grade copy of a card that there's not too many people that need it, so the person that bought it for 20,000 probably doesn't really want another one, even though it only went for 11,000. They probably don't want to have two of them, so the next person on the list gets to only pay $11,000 for it, and that's what happens when you have something that is just doesn't have a lot of buyers at that price range, and so if one gets taken off the market, that's one person that doesn't need that card. So that's what's going on with the Aquarella market. And then I'm going to go into that last point in a second, but I just wanted to cover these top cards for pretty much each of these players. This Messi Mega Crack 71 Biz in PSA 7 is up about 6% on the year, so it's in line with his market. A mid-grade Cristiano Ronaldo Mega Cracks rookie is down 30% on the year, so it's suffering more than his traditional market, but a lot of these mid-grade Ronaldo rookies have been coming to market. A lot of the people that had them are sort of cashing out because they don't really want to hold them while he's pretty much retired at this point playing in Saudi Arabia. So a lot of those have come to market. There's not a ton of demand for them, so prices are dropping on those. This Maradona high-grade PSA 8 1979 Panini, really iconic sticker for him, is down 30% in a high grade. Again, a lot of these are coming to market when the demand isn't very high for them. There's not a lot of FOMO on Maradona's market at this point, so it makes sense that these are dropping in the short term. I already talked about the Aquarella, and then also the Pele Alifa Bolliget rookie, 1958. This is probably seen as the holy grail of the vintage soccer card market. In PSA 2 condition, this card is down 36%. And again, this is a function of this coming to market a lot. In just the first 3 months of this year, this card has come to market 3 different times. It first sold for 30,000, then it sold for like 21,000, then it most recently sold for around 20,000. So when these keep hitting the market, there needs to be demand to scoop them up. And what we're seeing is, as I accidentally pressed the spacebar, there isn't that demand for more and more and more of these to keep coming to market. So I would imagine if everything holds constant and another one of these hits the market, it probably dips a bit further because the people that bought them in the past probably don't want to spend that much liquid cash on another one. So this last point here, aside from a huge surprise transfer for Messi or Ronaldo, it appears that all 4 of these players' careers are over at this point. Now, Messi, of course, could re-sign with PSG, but that club looks like it's a complete disaster at this point, and I would not expect them to be competitive in the Champions League, so it probably doesn't really matter for his career. Maybe he goes to MLS, and that gives him a little bit of a bump. Maybe he goes back to Barcelona, and that gives him a pretty good bump, but for the most part, I think all these players are pretty much retired. Messi's probably the only one that could create some sort of short-term hype FOMO performance thing, but I just don't know what to make of his career at this point. I honestly would prefer if he either went back to Barcelona or just retired at this point. I think his career has a really nice storybook ending with the World Cup, and for at least my intents and purposes, I'm considering his career over. Now, of course, he could add to his legacy. He can't really subtract from it, but for all intents and purposes, I'm looking at his career as well as Ronaldo's as finished at this point. So, with that rant out of the way, normally in sports cards, this would mean that their future pricing will be related to the health of the overall market, since they cannot generate FOMO or hype through performance. So if Ronaldo's out in Saudi Arabia, no matter how many goals he scores, nobody really cares. I mean, there's some Ronaldo fans that care, but they already were in the market to buy his cards. So Ronaldo's pretty much retired from a market standpoint. He can't create any hyper FOMO off his performances. Maradona and Pele are obviously long retired at this point, and they can't create any short-term FOMO or hype on their cards through performances or headlines or something like that. So for all those reasons, these players are pretty much done, and the market will now do with those cards what the market does with all cards. So if the sports card market or the soccer card market are doing well, these cards will probably be doing well. If the soccer card market and the sports card market are not doing well, these cards probably will not be doing well. So with all that being said, I think attempting to flip any of these players' cards in the short term is a fool's errand at this point. I don't see a scenario in which you buy a mid-grade rookie for Ronaldo, for example, and it goes up 30% over the next couple months because he does something in the Saudi Arabian League. I don't see that as a possible scenario. Same for buying Maradona or buying Pele. I don't see a scenario in which you buy a Maradona this month and you are able to flip it for 50% more in the next couple months. I just don't think that's a market reality that we live in anymore. That was purely a 2020/2021 market boom thing that happened where you could just buy a vintage card and over the next few months it would go up 2 or 3x. That's not realistic. What we normally see is stagnation for these types of cards, and then based on how the health of the market goes, they either increase with the market or decrease with the market throughout time. So keep those things in mind when we talk about those sorts of players. We're going to move forward to talk about the baby goats, which are Erling Haaland and Kylian Mbappe. These two guys are way ahead of the pack in terms of the next GOAT conversation and the players that are seen as the next GOAT on our market. So I wanted to talk about both of them in particular. So Erling Haaland's market is down, at least according to Card Ladder, around 3% over this 2023 so far, and Kylian Mbappe is down about 10%. I broke out each of their individual cards just so we could see a variety of what they're doing. The Sapphire PSA 10 for Haaland is up 15%, along with the Finest in PSA 10 up 15%. Interestingly enough, his rookie sticker in PSA 10 is down 15% in the same time, so people are shifting more towards the Sapphire and the Finest as opposed to the sticker, probably because the sticker is so high pop and the people that are in the ultramodern market much prefer cards to stickers. Then we move to Kylian Mbappe, where, interestingly enough, his rookie sticker is holding better than all of these other cards that I've listed here, and that's probably a function of that being his only 2016 item. All the other cards come from 2017 or 2018, so if Haaland's sticker came from 2018 rather than 2019, I'm sure you would see a similar effect where people prioritize that, but since everything came out during the same year, people prefer the cards. And for Kylian Mbappe, even though this came out a year before, it's pretty much performing the same as the Topps Chrome, at least in PSA 9 for the sticker and PSA 10 in the card condition. So all those examples out of the way, these two players are so established in the market that it would take something drastic from a performance perspective in order to move their cards significantly up or down. Erling Haaland is probably at the strongest point of his career. He's been scoring hat tricks every game. He had a 5-goal game in the Champions League. And even with all that, his prices have been pretty steady. If this was 2020 or 2021, Haaland prices would have doubled or tripled after that 5-goal match, and they probably would have gone up another level after the hat trick that came after it. So keep all that in mind. We're not playing in that market anymore. Now it's you really have to exceed expectations, and Haaland's expectations at this point are so priced in. He has so many cards in the market that it's really hard to move prices up like a double or a triple as opposed to what it was in 2020 or 2021. So yeah. Talking about Kylian Mbappe, another UEFA Champions League flameout from PSG has done little to affect his prices. His prices at this point, in my opinion, have nothing to do with his PSG performance and everything to do with his future transfer potential and trophy stacking later in his career that people are already pricing in. So the fact that Kylian Mbappe failed to win the Champions League again for PSG and he's not going to win the Ballon d'Or this year doesn't really affect his prices because people are looking further out into the future for him, expecting him to transfer to Liverpool, Real Madrid, Barcelona, a club like that where he'll play in bigger matches and he'll be able to stack up bigger awards. Maybe he'll win another World Cup for France in 2026. That's what people are pricing in for Mbappe right now. They don't really care that he didn't win the Champions League again this year, and they probably won't care if he doesn't win the Champions League again next year. There's just already so much future priced into his market that it's hard. Just like with Haaland, it's hard for him to move up. It's also hard for Mbappe to fall drastically. Alrighty, so let's talk about breakouts and breakdowns. So the 6 main players in our market are currently stuck in price limbo for the various price reasons that I talked about before, but this doesn't mean that nobody's cards are moving in price. So just off the top of my head, I listed these guys as in groups of breakouts or breakdowns in terms of their pricing and performance over the 2023 year. We have in the breakouts Victor Osimhen, Fulham Balogun, Karu Mitoma, Kavicha, I'm not even going to pretend to know that I can pronounce his last name, and then Bukayo Saka were the 5 that I came up with off the top of my head. And then for breakdowns, I had Christian Pulisic, Mason Mount, and Ansu Fati. So if we start with Victor Osimhen, this Merlin Speckle Refractor in PSA 10 is up 87% since the start of the year. This Fulham Balogun Silver Prism PSA 10 is up 233%. Since the start of this year. This Mitoma Japanese rookie is up 84% since the start of the year. This Kavicha rookie sticker from Russia is up 33% since the start of this year. And this Bukayo Saka Merlin, technically it's not a rookie. He has rookies in 2019, but he has so few that some people like to call his 2020 a rookie card. So you have this 2020 Merlin gold card numbered out of 50 in PSA 10 is up 133% on the year for him. So all those players' markets are doing extremely well because they are outperforming the expectations that were assigned to them at the start of this year. For Victor Osimhen, he's performing like the best striker in the world right now, aside from Erling Haaland, but Napoli is 1,000,000 points clear in the Serie A, and they look to have a nice path set up to the Champions League final, so a lot of people are speculating on him right now. You have Fuller and Balogun, who has been really, really good in France. He's also owned by Arsenal, and he might commit to either the U.S. men's national team or England, so tons of speculation on that. For Matoma, he came out of nowhere and started having huge performances for Brighton, and he's probably going to get a transfer at some point to one of the bigger clubs in England, so speculation on that. Kavicha, like with Osimhen, has been performing super well for Napoli, and then Bukayo Saka is probably the best player right now for Arsenal, and they're leading the Premier League. So all those players are outperforming their expectations, and their prices are showing that the market cares about them still, even though we're in a slightly dipping market overall to a stagnant market. If players outperform their expectations, the market is saying that they will reward them for doing so. So in terms of breakdowns, Christian Pulisic, his PSA 10 rookie card right here is down 50% in the past 3 months. Obviously, he's been injured for Chelsea, sort of fallen off the map. The United States men's national team is now getting a bunch of other guys' hype. So Balogun, for example, if he comes into the team, he's stealing some hype from Pulisic. A lot of people are talking about Giovanni Reina instead of Pulisic. There's some other guys here and there, but Pulisic is no longer the clear super standout for the United States men's national team because he's been out of the spotlight for the past few months, but perhaps that changes as we move forward into the actual matches for the U.S. men's national team. Then you have a guy like Mason Mount. This Sapphire and PSA 10 at the start of 2023 was around $60, and it's dropped down to $30 now in PSA 10. I have no idea what's going on with Mason Mount. I don't really think he plays for Chelsea that much anymore, and if he does, he's not scoring goals or assisting. And I think he was removed from the England national team camp due to injury recently, so not a lot really going for him right now, so he's really fading into obscurity at this point. He's probably going to need a transfer to a lesser club, and that will further take away from his appeal. So yeah, not a lot of great things going on for his market right now. And along with that, you have Ansu Fati, who still can't seem to get healthy, still can't seem to crack Barcelona's starting 11 or even reserves in some games. So yeah, his market's not doing great. This Sapphire is down 38% just in the past 3 months. So again, not great signs for his market. Of these three players, I would like Pulisic the most, not just because I'm American, but because he has the most obvious way to generate hype, because he's going to be on the national team, probably be one of the stars of the national team, and Americans will always follow him, whereas I don't know what the path is for those other two guys on the list. But anyways, this just goes to show that there are players that prices aren't moving, even though the market is still in this more slight dip, new normal stagnation phase. Alrighty, then let's quickly talk about PSA grading. So PSA is back in a 2019 flow. So my last two bulk $19 PSA submission grading submissions that I've done, and these are modern era cards, have been turned around within 5 weeks, which is incredible turnaround times when you consider that they at one point had a backlog that took over a year to get cards back. Now you can pay $19 per card and get your card back within 5 weeks, at least if you live in the United States like myself. So as I say here, we have not seen bulk turnaround times from PSA this fast since 2019. And yes, the price is nearly double what it was in 2019 to grade, but the market has also more than doubled in many categories since then, especially soccer. I showed you the graph before. Soccer didn't really exist in 2019, and now it's way up from where it was then. So yes, PSA pricing has doubled, but the soccer card market has easily more than doubled in that same time frame. So with all that in mind, cheaper grading could come back in the future, possibly even in the near future as we get more towards the national and maybe PSA doesn't have a backlog anymore and they're able to turn things around in 2 or 3 weeks. Then they probably would drop prices again. But for right now, they seem comfortable at $19, but it's possible, of course, that that could change. Like I said here, for right now, PSA is hitting fast turnarounds, and I'm on pace to have my personal biggest grading year since 2020. I haven't been doing many videos because I'm taking a lot of time to actually look at raw cards that I want to grade, and I'm doing a lot of that raw to grade stuff. So while I'm not... I hit the spacebar again. While I am not doing as much content as I am, I'm definitely as in the market as I have always been, just spending more time doing the whole looking for raw cards, grading them, and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm very active doing this. In my opinion, Raw to Grade is as good as it's been since the pandemic, as long as you know what you're doing and you aren't expecting the insane returns of the market boom. So here's just a recent example from a PSA submission that I'll be talking about on my channel over the next few days once I get it back from PSA. I bought this Jamal Musiala Inception rookie for $35 raw. I graded it with PSA for $19 and it got a PSA 10, and now it's worth somewhere around $150 to $200-ish dollars. And so once I pay out all the fees on that and everything comes down to it, I'll probably have doubled to tripled my investment, or more like a gamble or raw to grade adventure on this one card. So that's an example of what you can do with raw to grade, but make sure you know what you're doing, because if you don't, you can get yourself into a lot of trouble, especially if you don't grade out properly. Like if this graded a PSA 8, I would have been screwed because I wouldn't have been able to sell it for probably not even the $35 that I paid for the raw card. Alrighty, with all that out of the way, let's review everything we've talked about. So, the market overall has been fairly steady in the first quarter of 2023, but the majority of players that aren't outperforming expectations are still seeing slight dips. Some pre-modern and vintage cards are still getting hammered in auctions. There is no more room to speculate on these types of cards in the short term, in my opinion. It's a long-term view, collection, or investment play if you like them, or an ignore if you're not interested in them. The easy money was already made on these types of cards years ago. I don't think there's any more easy money in pre-modern and vintage cards. I don't think you're going to buy a Pele for $1,000 and then sell it in 3 months for $2,000. Those days are long gone. Now it's more like you're going to buy a Pele for $1,000 and hopefully in 20 years you'll be able to sell it for $5,000. That's more of the thinking with vintage and pre-modern at this point, at least in my opinion. Of course, I can be wrong. I'm just a dumb American that likes Christian Pulisic and Florian Balogun. So take my opinions with a grain of salt. If players vastly outperform their soccer card market expectations, they can still receive hefty price increases. See Victor Osimhen, see Bukayo Saka, see Mitoma, all those guys that I mentioned before. Those guys are getting really hefty price increases because they're beating their expectations. It's also extremely difficult for a guy like Haaland or Mbappe to do this because so much is already priced in that even if they have a crazy string of performances like Haaland or flame out of the Champions League like Mbappe, so much is already priced in that it doesn't really move their market in either direction. On the flip side, if a player fails, their market can disappear fast. See Christian Pulisic, see Mason Mount, see Ansu Fati, see Jadon Sancho from a long time ago, see Joao Felix from a long time ago. All those types of players, if they fail, their market disappears really, really fast. And then the last point, like I talked about on the previous slide, raw to grade is back, but it's not going to be as easy as it was in 2020. If you're not hitting top grades, or if you're grading the wrong cards, you could easily get crushed because the PSA grading fees are higher and the profits are a lot lower than they used to be in 2020 and 2021. So with all that out of the way, I thank you guys so much for clicking on today's video and hanging out with me. Feel free to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, all that fun stuff. Future videos, I'm going to have something on Darwin, Victor Osimhen, and that sort of type of player and what to look for in a video coming out in the future. I'm also going to have a video on a PSA return, and then perhaps on this coming Monday, which I believe is the 27th of March. Yeah, that's correct. The 27th of March. I remember it because it's the U.S. men's national team game that I'll be going to against El Salvador. So I was thinking about doing a live version of my fireside chat for the month of March. So I might, if I can figure out how to work it on my computer and make sure it runs properly and I'm not lagging all over the place, I might try and go live on Monday sometime midday U.S. Eastern Standard Time to go ahead and do a live fireside chat for the month of March, where you guys can ask questions live, and I can answer them live, as well as go through the subjects that I wanted to go through for this month. But in any event, yes, it's possible that could be happening on Monday, as long as my computer and my internet connection allows me to do so. So again, with all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next future video.